Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. We'll be getting started with the presentation shortly in about 4 or 5 minutes. And I'd just like to remind everyone to please fill in the hearing sign-in form. There will be a link in the chat for that. The hearing sign-in docs become part of the public record for this project, and the information will only be used to monitor attendance at this meeting and for data collection purposes as part of this study. It's not a requirement to participate this evening, and you can fill in as little or as much detail as you'd like, but the information is helpful. We'll get started in 3 or 4 minutes. Good evening, everyone. We really appreciate those of you who have joined us tonight for the virtual hearing for the Big Cottonwood Canyon Environmental Assessment public hearing. My name is Dave Smith, and I will be moderating this virtual meeting tonight, along with several other members of our study team. This hearing is being recorded as part of the project record and will be available to view on the study website tomorrow. So if you miss anything during this hearing, please feel free to log on tomorrow, and the entire hearing will be available on the project website. I'd like to take a minute to just introduce some key members of the study team who will be joining us tonight before we jump into the presentation. As you can see on your screen, we have Devin Weeder, who is the project manager, Carissa Watanabe, who's UDOT's environmental program manager, Terry Warner, Amy Croft, Tim Baird, Andrea Clayton, Erica Mendoza, and Gray Thomas, and Adam Shaw, and with our consultant team as well as Adams with the Forest Service. If you've ever wondered who reads all the comments in an environmental document, this is the group that you're looking at right here. Before we jump into the presentation and the hearing, I'd like to do a quick review of the participation guidelines to give everyone an idea of what to expect this evening, and we'll be posting a link to the meeting guide in the chat as well. Tonight's meeting format is a hearing where we'll be taking formal comments from anyone who would like to make one, but we won't be having a question and answer session. So in other words, we'll listen to the speakers, and those comments will be recorded, but we won't be going back and forth in a question and answer period. Speakers will be called in the order they registered. After our pre-registered speakers have made their comments, we'll open the remaining time to anyone else who would like to make a comment. We just request that anyone who has not signed up to speak use the form to sign up to speak, so that we can keep track of those who would like an opportunity to comment. When it is your turn to speak, you will be temporarily promoted to a panelist so that you can unmute yourself and turn on your video when commenting, so that we can hear you. Your time frame will be limited to 3 minutes in order to accommodate everyone who would like to speak tonight. This hearing is scheduled to go until 8 p.m., but if needed, we'll extend the we'll extend the time if more speakers are warranted. Comments can also be made publicly through online tools, and like this, in addition to this hearing, but everything must follow our UDOT social media policy participant code of conduct, which I will just review quickly as follows. We welcome and encourage comments, conversations, and feedback. To maintain a professional space where ongoing communication can take place, please be advised of the following. Any foul language, threats, obscene comments, and/or unacceptable comments, contents, and posts will be deleted at our discretion. Any off-topic or spam or other similar posts or comments will be deleted as well. We just ask that you respect the group and the presenters, and then remind you that the hearing sign-in sheet does become part of the public record for this project, and the information will only be used, as I mentioned before, to monitor attendance at public meetings and for our study data collection purposes. Fill in as little or as much as you would like on the sign-in sheet, as the information is helpful to us. Also a note, as you're following along when we start with the presentation, if you can't see the graphics clearly because of the amount of information, all of these graphics are also available on the project website. We'll be showing you fact sheets, display boards, and a scroll plot, and these are all available on the project website. Thanks for letting me walk through the logistical details, and I'm going to turn the time over to Devin, the UDOT project manager, to give everyone an overview of the study.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us tonight. I guess my camera just froze, it looks like. But, oh well. Right, we've had a couple periods already. We've already gone through pre-scoping, we've had scoping, and we are currently in the environmental assessment, which started in the winter of 2024, and, now we're in winter of 2025. The next step in this process will be the decision, which will happen once the public comment period has closed and we have taken the time to respond to public comments, revise our environmental analysis if necessary, and we will then approve the environmental assessment and issue our decision document. This slide is Carissa's. So if Carissa...
Yeah, so this slide describes the two, okay, just want to make sure I was unmuted, the two alternatives that were evaluated in the CA. So the no action alternative and the proposed action. So the no action alternative serves as a baseline for comparison to the proposed action. No action basically represents what would happen if the project were not undertaken. So you can compare the impacts of the proposed action against doing nothing. So the no action includes all fiscally constrained projects on Wasatch Front Regional Council's 2050 long-range plan, except the BCC project. So there would be no tolling, no mid-canyon or resort bus stops. A smaller mobility hub and the grade-separated interchange on Wasatch were approved with the Little Cottonwood Canyon EIS, and so they would be part of the no action alternative. The no action also assumed that UTA's current ski bus route, the 972 from Fort Union up to Solitude and Brighton, would continue its current operations with 30-minute frequencies during ski season. Next slide, I think goes back to Devin.
Thanks, Carissa. So this is a quick overview of what we're proposing as part of our proposed action. That includes the enhanced bus service, the tolling, the mobility hub, and as well as resort bus stops at both Brighton and Solitude. To complement that, we're also suggesting that we improve the existing bus stops in the Mid-Canyon, add a bus lane around the Brighton Loop and extending a little bit before the Brighton Loop, as well as adding a grade-separated interchange on Wasatch Boulevard to access the mobility hub, and also a bus-only transit way that helps the bus to get around the Fort Union and Wasatch intersection to avoid the traffic at the mouth. I'll hand it over to Amy, I believe, the next slide.
Yes, thank you. The next three slides cover the purpose and need of this project and the evaluation criteria used. UDOT developed criteria to evaluate how well the BCC project would meet the purpose and need. So as a review, the purpose of the project is to reduce wintertime traffic congestion on SR 190 as directed by the 2023 Utah Legislature and Senate Bill 2, which is to provide enhanced bus service, tolling, a mobility hub, and resort bus stops in Big Cottonwood Canyon. So each of the next three slides outlines a need that we identified. For this slide, the need is decreased mobility on SR 190 during peak periods in the winter, leads to increased travel times. And then we've got the measure, how well does each alternative improve the projected travel times. As you can see here, the no action alternative, our travel times for the AM are going to be 56 minutes to go up the canyon. And in comparison, for the proposed action, our proposed travel times in 2050 would be drastically lower, about 24 minutes for buses and 29 minutes for private vehicles. So AM peak travel times are going to be reduced by 27 to 31 minutes. Next slide, please. Our second need that we identified was the operational capacity of SR 190 is compromised during peak periods in the winter. Our measure for determining if each alternative we're going to solve this need would be, does the alternative maintain an operational road capacity of about 1,000 vehicles per hour? And this would occur by implementing tolling and providing enhanced bus service. The no action alternative does not have a method to maintain this operational capacity, whereas our proposed action should be able to maintain this operational capacity by providing enhanced bus service and then implementing tolling to encourage users to ride the bus. Next slide, please. Our third need, there is a high existing demand for winter bus service and the need for bus service to accommodate a majority of future traffic demand. And the measure is, does the alternative provide enhanced bus service along with other elements as specified by Senate Bill 2 to improve the rider experience and encourage this mode shift to riding the buses more often? With a no action alternative, as Carissa mentioned, the current UTA Route 972 would continue to provide winter bus service at 30-minute frequencies. Riders would continue to face infrequent buses, long wait times, and they wouldn't have those enhanced bus stops. Whereas the proposed action would provide enhanced bus service, and by 2050, we expect that buses would leave the mobility hub about every 5 to 10 minutes. And we'd have resort bus stops with enclosed waiting areas, restrooms and lockers, and a mobility hub with centralized parking to improve the overall bus rider experience. Next slide, please. The next two slides provide overviews of the resource impacts that we expect with either the no action or the proposed action. I'm not going to go through each of these lines during this presentation, but all this information is available on the website and also in the EA document. But just some quick highlights. We've got land converted to transportation use. With the no action alternative, we expect about 23 acres. That is largely around where the mobility hub would be built at the gravel pit site at the base of the canyon. And with the proposed action, we're looking at about 34.5 acres. Again, most of that would be at the gravel pit site and a little bit up in the canyon with our proposed bus stops and bus lane. There would be no impacts to species listed as threatened and endangered. Again, I'm not going to go through each of these. Next slide, please. Just a few more of these. We've got some species listed under conservation agreement and USDA Forest Service sensitive wildlife species and wildlife habitat. There would be a few sort of temporary impacts to these sensitive species. These are detailed in the EA if you'd like more information. We've got impacts to aquatic resources. The proposed action would have about 1/2 acre. And again, the EA goes in depth on each of these. Next slide, please. And these next two slides are again just re-emphasizing some of the key takeaways of these resource impacts. If I'm looking at that first bullet, most land impacts occur at the gravel pit, about 28.96 acres outside of the canyon and about 5.5 acres inside of the canyon. The team has worked really hard to minimize impacts within the canyon, especially in the Forest Service property and around homes. There would be no homes or businesses relocated, and there are about 11 partial acquisitions for the mobility hub and about 21 for in-canyon improvements. Next slide, please. There would be minor short-term wildlife displacement expected, and tree and shrub removal would be scheduled outside of the migratory bird nesting season, really, again, trying to avoid and minimize impacts where possible. And the project would add about approximately 18 acres of hard road service and affects about 4.5 acres of flood zones. Next slide, please. The next two slides summarize the mitigation measures that we are proposing to implement, potential impacts of the project, and the actions that we'll take to reduce impacts. You could scan the QR code here. Again, you are free to look at these slides at your leisure when they're posted on the website, or look at this in the EA. A lot of our mitigation measures are very standard. Next slide, please. Again, just a more summary of the mitigation measures. And that's all for me.
Good evening. Yeah, I'm going to elaborate a little bit about the elements of the proposed action that Amy, Devin, and Carissa highlighted or touched on earlier. UDOT's goal with the enhanced bus service is to provide a frequent, reliable, and comfortable winter transit service on SR 190 in Big Cottonwood Canyon. You know, the bus system was really sized for 2050 operations to kind of match the regional transportation plan. But initially, buses would run every, 10 to 15 minutes. And then, growing over time as the demands kind of dictate to operate, about every 5 to 6 minutes by 2050. And next slide, please. Yeah, so there's, other elements of the proposed action that, address the quality of the transit service that UDOT is seeking, as well as, these features kind of also help increase the efficiency of the bus service so that we can, maybe try to minimize the bus fleet as much as possible and just kind of try to, be responsible about the operating costs. And the first key element of those goals is a bus priority lane near the top of the SR 190. This would be an inside running bus lane that would start at about Camp Tuttle Road or the location of the fire station towards the top of Big Cottonwood Canyon. And it would start there because, for the majority of the time, I'm kind of reasonably busy, weekends and holidays, the traffic really backs up to that point due to people accessing the Brighton parking area. And so UDOT plans starting a bus priority lane there. So it'd be bus only, again, running on the inside through the roundabout there at the start of the Brighton Loop and running to a proposed resort bus stop at Brighton near the Brighton Center, which Devin will touch on a little bit later. Next slide, please. Actually, Adam, you want to take this one?
You bet. Thanks, Terry. So one of the some of the improvements that are going to be made within the canyon and will be some improved bus stops. Some of the existing bus stops that are in the middle of the canyon, they're just not functioning as well as they will need to. So some of the improvements that are planned at Cardiff Fork, at Spruce's Campground, at Silver Fork and Silver Lake, those bus stops will be upgraded. They'll be formalized. Some of that formalization includes installing passenger platforms, some raised concrete platforms to formalize passenger drop off and pickup. It really will help with that. Specifically at Cardiff Fork as well, that area is going to be reconfigured so that buses can pull out of traffic, pull off onto the not just onto the shoulder of the road, but out of traffic entirely. There will also be at Cardiff Fork, the distance between that's covered by the hot crosswalk will be shortened, so there will be quicker crossing of the street there of the road. And then also at Silver Lake, the Nordic Center, there will also be a raised platform for passengers to load and unload there. So we'll get some additional benefits out of those. At each one of these new or reconfigured bus stops in the middle of the canyon, or in the upper canyon in the case of Silver Lake, there will be pedestrian crossing, flashing yellow lights, not an overhead hawk, but just flashing yellow lights that warn drivers of pedestrians crossing the road. So that'll help increase safety as well. Next slide. So this is just a visual of each one of the stops that I just mentioned. Spruce's campground. You see that the bus is able to pull all the way out of the traffic lane, get off onto a formalized bus stop platform, or pull up adjacent to that. Same thing at Cardiff Fork, and also at Cardiff Fork, there will be revised parking layout there to make sure the bus can get all the way off of the lane of travel. I should also mention at Cardiff Fork, there is a planned restroom on the north side of the road that would be constructed. That'd be a new feature that would be constructed there to provide a bathroom facility for those people who are parking on the north side of the road. Also, you can see that the crosswalk there that is currently covered by the hawk would be shortened. And since the distance covered by the hawk would be shortened, the hawk timing itself should be shortened as well. So that would be an improvement to traffic flow also. Next slide. Okay. Silver Fork, you can see not a whole lot going on there other than providing a formalized space on the edge of the road for the bus to pull out of the lane of travel. That allows traffic to continue to flow behind the bus and around the bus. So there would be also a crosswalk that's formalized here to allow for safer crossing. Up at Silver Fork, up at Silver Lake is the raised platform that I was talking about. People will be able to get off the bus or get onto the bus there, cross over to the Nordic Center, and go start their outing there, or go to the Brighton store as well with the formalized crosswalk. That is also in the stop at Silver Lake uses the dedicated bus lane to provide a nice safe stop for the bus as well without blocking any traffic. So each one of those stops is designed to keep traffic moving around the bus when it stops, unlike today. I think that's next slide, please.
Okay. Another element of the proposed action is a large mobility hub with a pretty large parking structure, about 1,750 parking spaces. Just to get you oriented, the exhibit here on the bottom of the page, that's the Fort Union Boulevard and Wasatch Boulevard intersection, just right at the entrance to Big Cottonwood Canyon. And this mobility hub would be about a half mile north of that intersection at the site of up until recently, an active aggregate mine. So we call it the gravel pit. This would be a pretty large structure. It'd be about 5 levels. Level 1 might be depressed a little bit, but level 1 would be dedicated to the bus operations. And there would be 4 levels of public parking above that. Be about 70 feet tall and occupy about 4.5 acres. Again, all told about 750 parking stalls. And it's sized to accommodate bus service in both Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons. And so it'd be about 13 buses per hour for Little Cottonwood Canyon. And because Big Cottonwood's a little bit closer, about 10 buses per hour for Big Cottonwood Canyon. A couple extra bus bays were planned on level 1 so that, if UTA chooses, they could run a valley service to this location and facilitate transfers to a winter Cottonwood Canyon's bus service. And another element is that this mobility hub parking structure was sized to store buses overnight. And the benefit of that is that it really reduces what's called a deadhead time. And that's the travel time and expense for buses to travel from, some location to the start of the route. But being right here, with buses being stored, it really eliminates that travel time and the expense of that deadhead, where buses aren't actually serving riders at that time. And then be some light maintenance facilities there as well. Maybe some fueling, tire changes, pretty simple light maintenance activities. And then before you switch slides, I want to get you oriented to another bus priority feature. Again, it's near the bottom of the screen. Buses would run from this mobility hub location, and they'd parallel Wasatch, heading southbound to what we're calling a transit way. And next slide, please. This transit way, again, would parallel Wasatch and then turn up Canyon. And there would be a signal here, a bus activated signal that would allow buses to make a free left-hand turn up the canyon. And as Devin mentioned, the benefit of that transit way is that buses could bypass that new intersection or grade separated interchange on Wasatch, as well as the sometimes congested Wasatch and Fort Union Boulevard interchange. So this makes up a good chunk of that travel time savings that Amy mentioned, maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes worth of travel time savings at this location. The orange here is a trail. The ones on the bottom of the screen are just to accommodate pedestrian crossing of SR 190 and reconnect to a trail that goes underneath a new bridge, as well as the existing Wasatch Bridge. And then it would extend multi-use path north into the gravel pit, which is starting to be planned for a future development. Next slide, please. And in order to facilitate access into that mobility hub, UDOT is proposing a new interchange or grade separated intersection on Wasatch. If approved, UDOT would raise Wasatch Boulevard, and those interchange ramps would ramp down and cross underneath Wasatch. And that allows Wasatch to remain free-flowing while people destined for the transit system would access the mobility hub there at the gravel pit. The Wasatch Boulevard improvements include maintaining bike lanes on both sides of Wasatch. Next slide, please. Devin, you want to take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Terry. So one of the key features of this whole proposal are the resort bus stops. These will be both at Brighton and at Solitude, and our aim is to provide an attractive and comfortable place where you can either start your day of skiing or end your day skiing. They're enclosed. There's seating, standing room. There's lockers. They're heated. There will be dedicated restrooms both for the public as well as for the drivers of the bus system. And there's break rooms for the drivers. These seem relatively large, and this is because on those days when the bus system is not working well, right, when the road system is clogged and you have quite a lot of people leaving the resort and waiting for a bus, we want to make sure we can accommodate all of those people at those times when the buses aren't able to run on 10-minute frequencies due to traffic delay. So as we say, we can accommodate at about a 30 to 40 minutes of delay in 2050 when the buses are running every 6 minutes. If you want to go to the next slide, here's some concepts. So we haven't finalized the designs of these. We have approximate footprints and we have, some design styles. But one thing we would comment on is what style do you think looks nice? What style do you think fits the resort? As Adam will talk about, there's requirements that we need to meet at each resort area. And so, we want these to look like they should fit in their environment. If you want to go to the next slide. So here's Solitude, and second, sorry. So here's Solitude, and we're looking at entry 1, which is just on the top side of the screen, on the left side of the screen. So just as you pass entry 1 of Solitude, there will be a new signal, and this signal will provide access into, for buses only, into this new resort bus stop. There will be 4 bus bays, so we can handle quite a few buses per hour, and then you'll be able to go into this nice new facility, put on your skis, put on your boots, use the restroom, and cross a pedestrian bridge and get access right to Solitude. And then at the end of the day, the reverse, cross this bridge, use the restroom while you wait for the bus, and enter a bus and go back down the canyon. These are relatively large. They're around 8,600 square feet, which includes an equipment storage shed, which would be for 2 UDOT vehicles. So that way we can store a plow and a grader in the upper canyon and provide quicker ability for us to keep clearing the road rather than walking these vehicles from lower down the canyon. If you want to go to the next slide. So here's some concepts that we've developed so that you can see really what they might look like in more of, from just rather than just a top-down view. We've done our best to avoid the creek wherever possible. So we're meeting the Salt Lake County ordinances when it comes to distance from the creek. And we're aiming to avoid any other ordinances for distances to tributaries. You can see on the left-hand side, we're showing the plow, backing into the equipment bay, and you can see the buses, how they would kind of navigate the turnaround area. So Adam, if you want to talk about the Forest Service.
Sure. So as part of the decision that the Forest Service has to make, one of those decisions would be whether to issue a special use permit for each one of the transit stops at both Solitude and Brighton. The special use permit if it were issued, if it were authorized to be issued, special use permit would be held by UDOT and UDOT only. So that's one of the things that we are looking at authorizing. The other thing that's in our decision space at the Solitude stop is actual construction of this facility. Right now, that location is part of what's called Management Prescription 3.1W. It's a watershed designation. There would have to be a forest plan amendment for this specific project authorized for as part of the EA, as part of the analysis. And that forest plan amendment would allow development on this parcel. Right now, this parcel, it's partly a meadow, and it's the rest of it has a stand of trees on it. So certainly there will be some impact to this area going forward if the proposed action is authorized. And again, that special use permit would be held by UDOT.
Thanks, Adam. And here you can see a couple additional renderings showing both what it may look like inside, as well as just some additional shots from different locations. Both showing, also showing the inside of the vehicle bays. All these are contained in our architectural report, which you can find. So if you're interested in more about potential layouts, those are all available on the website in our architectural report. If you want to go to the next slide. Here is the overview for Brighton. This is right at inside the Brighton parking lot. And so I just want to say thanks to Brighton for being accommodating to us and working with us so we can get a good location for this bus stop, as it was really hard to find a good location for Brighton stop. This is right as you come around to the top of the loop. The bus lane would enter into the bus stop. There'd be a signal which would stop traffic so the bus could cross it. And then what may also stop traffic so the bus can exit the bus stop. Very similar size building. One thing that's different is we wouldn't have a vehicle bay here, but on the second story, we would have living quarters for our UDOT avalanche control staff. And that, once again, lets them stay in the upper canyon. Currently, they stay at Silver Lake. That's not housing that UDOT controls. And so this would just provide UDOT housing for them rather than having them stay in someone else's space. And then once again, it's very close to the actual resort. You have about a 250-foot walk to get you to the lift. You want to go to the next slide? Here's some renderings of Brighton. Once again, it's on there on the left. You can see where the bus would enter the resort bus stop. This doesn't impact the main parking lot for Brighton Resort. It's on that left-hand side where there's a current maintenance bay and additional parking by the Great Western Lift. If you want to go to the next slide, here's some additional concepts for what it may look like at night. What it may look like inside, and this is probably the best view we have for what the lockers and the layout may look like. These are all very conceptual, so the layout may change, but these features will probably exist. And if you want to go to the next one, so one of the key elements is tolling. This would be a variable price toll in the upper canyon starting just below entry 1. And the point of the toll is to maintain that operational capacity of the roadway, right? The roadway can handle right around 1,000 cars an hour, and during the winter months, we see that very regularly during peak times. With that toll, there would be most likely an exemption given to residents in the toll area, as well as employees. The slide says resort employees, but we are going to modify that to be all employees in the toll zone. It would be an electronic system, so it won't be a toll booth where you stop and pay the toll. It would be a system where you would drive through, it would register you've driven through, and send you a bill in the mail. We're aiming to make sure that that bus fare is substantially lower than the toll, because the whole point is to get you to shift when the road is not functioning well, when people are, when there's congestion, we want you to say, hey, I should ride the bus rather than drive. And that's the whole point for the toll. If you want to go to the next slide, this is the cost estimate for the project. Most of the investment in dollars is in the mobility hub in the gravel pit. As you can see, it's right around $200 million for the parking structure, the interchange, and the transit way, as well as the other roads that were shown to get you from the interchange to that parking structure. Around $18 million for 30 buses, a bus priority lane, as well as the other features mentioned. There is a negative down near the bottom, and that's because a lot of these costs, $114 million, was actually covered already in the Little Cottonwood EIS. And so in order to not double count those costs, which were already planned for the interchange and the mobility hub, we've subtracted those out of this estimate. So for the Big Cottonwood EA, we are proposing $144 million action. I want to go to the next slide. Here are some of the concepts that we had considered but dismissed. We looked at alternative resort bus stop locations. At Solitude, we considered three other concepts, but the issues were that they did not avoid that 3.1W management prescription area. They did not avoid RHCAs, and they were further away from the ski resort. So while we would prefer to not put it somewhere that is undisturbed, we could not find a place that was undisturbed that met the criteria that were necessary for this stop. Similarly, at Brighton, we considered one other location that was further up the loop, but it would impact more of their parking, would cause more disturbance, and it had the potential to disturb wetlands and an RHCA, where currently we're not disturbing an RHCA and are mostly on disturbed ground. We had considered other traffic demand management strategies, but almost all of them are not within our UDOT's control. We are very limited by federal regulation on how we can manage this roadway, and the toll is one of those few tools that we do have. We considered the bus lane to be on the right-hand side as you go in the loop rather than the left-hand side. But that creates more conflict as you're trying to get into the Brighton parking lot. So even though it's not traditional, we propose it should be on the left-hand side. And we also looked at extending the bus lane further down the canyon to Solitude. But as the further away we got, the more and more expensive it became, because the grade goes up very steeply through that area and the road gets very narrow. So to add a lane would have caused quite a bit more environmental impact, as well as costing quite a bit more money. And when we looked at the traffic models, what we have chosen had the most benefit with the least impact. If you want to go to the next slide. This is Carissa.
Yeah, so UDOT's public comment period is now open and it has been extended to January 19th. But just to note, the Forest Service comment period still ends on January 9th, and they'll be going into more detail on a couple of slides. So as you can see here, there's a variety of methods for which to leave your public comment. You can text or leave a voicemail, comment on our project website, send us an email, or snail mail or hand delivery at the address shown. So UDOT will review all the comments received and provide responses to all the substantive comments, and responses will be provided when we release the final environmental documentation. So just a reminder though, your comment must be submitted through one of these formal channels in order for it to be included in the project record and to receive a response. Next slide, please. So what to include in your comment? Just a reminder that commenting is not a form of voting. Comments that may just say, I don't like it, is pretty vague and can make it hard for us to address your concerns. So what is helpful are comments that are specific, solution-oriented, and evidence-based, and also comments that pertain to this project, as we are in the formal comment period for the Big Cottonwood Canyon EA. So we're looking for your comments on the analysis of the proposed impacts of the proposed action, the proposed mitigation, and the potential USDA Forest Service decisions, and which Adam will now cover on the next slide.
Carissa was talking about the comment period for UDOT. Forest Service is a cooperating agency on this proposed action. So while we also have our own decisions to make, we also have a specific set of instructions that we have to follow for notice and comment period. Our comment period is only allowed to run for 30 days. So that's why we have a slightly different comment period than UDOT. If people are speaking specifically to decisions that the U.S. Forest Service has to make, you're going to want to comment before January 9th or by January 9th. And the decisions that we have to make include special use permits, or whether we're going to authorize special use permits for the construction and operation of those 2 transit stops at the ski areas, whether we're going to authorize reconfiguration of the existing mid-canyon bus stops, and whether we're going to authorize adding or designating a bus-only lane around the Brighton Loop. So those are the decisions that we have to make. And also, I should mention, there's the project-specific plan amendment that I described earlier at Solitude Ski Area. If you do comment on the proposed action related to the decisions that the Forest Service is making, you're going to want to make sure you include all the information that's required in order to participate potentially in a pre-decisional objection process that we have. The items that you need to make sure you include with your comment include name, address, and a telephone number or email, some way for us to contact you. You want to mention specifically the name of the project that you're addressing in your comments, in this case, the Big Cottonwood Canyon Winter Transit Project. And then you're going to want to make sure you've got specific written comments addressing components of the project specifically. The comment methods are the same as if you would comment on the UDOT portions of the project, and you can submit them using the same method and destination. So fax, email, letters written, all the same methods that you can use to submit comments to the UDOT portion, you can use to submit comments on the Forest Service portion of the proposed action. If you want to find out more information about how our comment process and objection process works, you can select the QR code on the page that's shown here, and that's also in some of the other summary documents, and you can find out more information about that.
Great. Appreciate everyone who participated in the presentation portion of this public hearing. And we will now move actually to the public hearing portion of the meeting. As long as we're good, Devin, unless you have anything else you'd like to add to the presentation, we're going to move forward to the public hearing.
No, thanks, Dave. Thanks for hosting, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
Wonderful. Before we get started, just a reminder that all of the information that you just saw in the presentation, all the charts and graphs and information is available on the project website. So if you'd like to spend a little more time with that information, to review it in further detail, please visit our website and spend the amount of time that you would need so that you're informed as you'd like to be able to make a comment on the website or make a comment on the project. As we move into the public hearing portion of this meeting, each speaker will have 3 minutes to share their comments about this project and about the proposed solutions that you've just seen. I will call your name from the registration list for those who have signed up. If you're on the meeting and you have not signed up, please go to the chat and click on the link to sign into the registration form, because we'll be pulling and identifying each of you from that form for our speakers. And then when we finish the list of speakers who have signed up, if there's any others who didn't get a chance to sign up, we'll open it up to them. When it's your turn to speak, we just ask that you please select at the bottom of your screen on this Zoom format. You'll see that there's a little hand icon, and underneath the hand icon it says raise hand. We ask that you select that when your name is called so we can identify you in the group and make sure that you are promoted to be a panelist when it's your turn to speak, so that you can turn on your camera, enable your audio, and share your comments with us. We'll be tracking time on the screen. You'll see the time on the screen when we start with our first speaker. It'll start at 3 minutes and start to count down. When it gets to 30 seconds, I'll just remind you that you have 30 seconds to wrap up with your comment. And then when we get to the end of your three minutes, we'll then move to the next, we'll allow you to wrap up and then move to the next speaker, as we try to accommodate everyone who would like to make a comment tonight. So with that in mind, we are going to go ahead and move to the public comment period. And our first speaker is Isabel. Isabel, if you've raised your hand, we'll promote you to a speaker so that you can provide your comment. And if Isabel is not here, we'll move to the next speaker, which would be Andy Wright. Andy, if you could raise your hand, clicking on the button, we'll give you time to speak. Okay, I don't see Andy jumping in. The next one on the list is Chris. Chris, if you're here, click the raise hand button and we'll give you your 3-minute time slot. Okay, well, hopefully not 3 strikes, we're not out. We'll keep moving. This isn't baseball, so we'll move on to the bottom half of the inning and go with Thomas Hemingway. Thomas, if you're here, please raise your hand and we'll give you your time allotment. There we go.
All right. Hey, Dave.
We have someone. All right, Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Devin. Really appreciate you guys and the whole crew, all the work you're doing. I mean, it's tremendous work that's got to be done. And my family and I, we live up on the Brighton Loop, so our home and property would be significantly affected by the widening of the loop road to accommodate the bus lane, which we have concerns about because it doesn't address the root cause of the traffic, which is largely the single occupancy vehicles, which I think the tolling helps a little, but I really feel like the tolling needs to start at the bottom or the base of the canyon. And there should be something with the mobility hub that would accommodate like a carpool area where people that are planning to head up that for whatever reason don't want to take the bus, they can access other people who also want to carpool, because the root cause is just too many vehicles on the road. And widening the Brighton Loop, of course, doesn't help that at all. And my experience has been currently the Brighton Loop already is wide enough to accommodate 2 lanes of traffic. It's about 30 feet wide currently in the paved portion. And when you include the shoulders, it's between 34 and 37 feet, depending on where you measure it. And I've measured it already myself with my kids. I've also measured the highway below the loop, which is approximately the same width, which already accommodates 2 lanes of opposing traffic. So the loop's already wide enough. The widening would significantly impact our home, which is directly on the loop. And a big concern is the snow accumulation and snow removal. And I looked at your drawing with the cement divider. I have no idea how challenging that's going to be for snow removal with a cement divider in the middle of the road. I think that's going to be highly complex. And then when you do widen the road, it provides less surface area to dispense that plowed snow. And that would basically be largely pushed against my home, because my home is very close to the road already, approximately 20 feet. And the renderings show that it would literally put the road within 6 to 10 feet of my home, which there's no possible way for that snow to be appropriately displaced other than pushed right against my windows, my roof. And we already have an issue under the current state where every later season from about March onwards, we already have snow being pushed from the road into our home under the current conditions. And if that were any wider, it would literally be, pushed into our windows and home earlier in the season, which would be devastating, not only to the structure, but the safety of my family. We have 6 kids. We live on the loop. They go to local schools. Like, we live here locally. We've been watching this issue for many years now.
And we really got to do something
Thomas. Better. Yeah, we really got to do something better at the base to accommodate for limiting the traffic coming up. And I think the tolling at the resorts is way too late in the canyon to address this, because you got the vehicles on the road already. So it's got to happen at the base, and there's got to be significant opportunity for carpooling there at the base at that utility hub to help accommodate. So those are the key issues. I think we got to solve the folks entering the canyon, and it should be accommodated at the base and not a tolling way up at the ski resort. So thank you for all that you're doing. Really appreciate the work you're doing. I think we got a little bit farther to go, but looking forward to working with you all.
Great. Thank you for your comments, Thomas. Appreciate you taking the time tonight to join us and to share those comments with us. We'll move on to our next person registered on the list, Bob Paxton. If Bob's here, raise your hand, and on deck after Bob will be Brooke Hemingway. But Bob, are you with us tonight? Sounds like Bob is. We're getting him set up. Bob, are you there? Oh, looks like he might have pushed the wrong button and signed off. We'll give it just a minute.
Looks like he's here.
All right, Bob, can you turn on your audio?
I did that.
There you go. We got you. Okay, Bob.
Well, thank you very much.
Your turn. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for the work that you're doing and for the public hearing which you held yesterday up on Bengal Boulevard. And thank you, Dr. Hemingway, for your comments. I think that they were very appropriate. I largely just have questions as far as comments are concerned. I'm a person that doesn't appreciate excessive taxation on citizens that don't use a product. And I'm concerned that the 144 million for Big Cottonwood, and I don't know the number for Little Cottonwood, is going to be a tax burden to the people, especially of Salt Lake County, but it could be a tax burden to people of the entire state of Utah. which I'm assuming more than 90% of the people do not ski or use these two or any of the 4 resorts in the Cottonwood Canyons. And so that's a huge concern to me. One of the problems I have is the tolling. I know that our previous speaker likes the tolling. I'm not a very big fan of tolling. To me, it seems to be a way for government entities to force people into one way or another. And so I think that maybe tolling of out-of-state licenses, out-of-state plates, and rental cars would need to have some kind of an identification placed on them so that they could be picked up with a toll. But for the state of Utah, we already pay the taxes. I'd like to see just trying to get people from out of state. And then I have lots of other comments, but I think my last comment would be we need to keep the flow going on these roads. And it looked like the bus pullouts that go along Highway 190 are kind of short. So that means the bus is going to slow down, which would slow the traffic down to get into that bus stop. And then they're going to have to force their way back in. And that gives a concern on the flow. We've got to keep the flow going, and that's it. And I appreciate the explanation that you've all given to help us all understand this project.
Great. Thank you, Bob. We really appreciate your comments and for you joining us tonight. Let's move to our next person on the list to speak to hear your comments, and that would be Brooke. I believe Brooke, with your hand raised, we'll promote you to be able to turn on your camera and your microphone, and then you can provide your comment to the project team. Brooke, are you there?
Hi. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right. Wonderful. Okay, go ahead, Brooke.
Thank you for listening to us both. And thank you, Devin, for listening to us last night. I don't think my husband has adequately expressed our concerns for the snow against our home. We have pictures that show exactly what it looks like. And here's the situation. We have 6 children. We raise our kids up here in the canyon. And every year, as it is, we have to send them out there with helmets on to dig out our windows. And if our house is covered, it could actually be dangerous to their lives because they could get stuck in there, trapped in there. And so there is a serious concern there for us with that. But I also want to share with you personal experience. So we're intimately familiar with the canyon. We adjust our life to just live with it, right? My girls have gymnastics. I just know when I can leave the canyon and when I can't. The biggest issue, and I know this intimately because every time there's a backup, me and my girls go out, we take drinks and we take snacks to all these people that are stuck in the canyon, that are stuck in the loop. And we walk around the entire loop and we give them drinks and we give them snacks. And I am not kidding when I tell you about 70% of those people are single car drivers. And so UDOT, as far as I understand, I did some research, I might be wrong here, but you can actually enforce carpooling rules and standards. And so I really actually think that's the biggest issue, is that there are so many single car drivers driving up here. And the truth is, I work in human psychology and understand human psychology and behavior. And unless it really, really hurts, people won't care about a toll. They're already so invested in the money they spent skiing. Tourists don't care. They'll spend $50, $20, whatever, because people value their autonomy. However, if it's absolutely impossible to come up, because the only way you can come up is if you have 3 people per car, unless you're a resident or you have a registered like vacation rental where there's a QR code, right? Or there's some way to navigate that, it won't hurt enough to change behavior, because human beings, especially in this day and age, love their autonomy. And so we have too many single car drivers. And the second issue is there's no enforcement of the types of cars that should be up here. And actually the biggest problem, and I should know this because I drive up and down the canyon all the time, I have a Suburban with snow tires. I have an appropriate car to drive up the canyon, but we see Teslas, we see Hyundais, and these are the cars that spin out. These are the cars that cause accidents. These are the cars that kill people, literally kill people, and have almost killed me. And if we don't fix those problems, it doesn't matter what kind of bus lanes, It doesn't matter what you try to charge somebody in toll. All you're doing is spending, like the last speaker said, a ton of taxpayer money, and you're taking from our land that we worked our butts off to be able to buy and to build, and it's costing so much money. So I have intimate experience. I watch that road every single day out my window, and I'd be happy to explain to you and literally tell you like what I see every single day. So inappropriate cars, having some kind of law,
30 seconds, Brooke.
some kind of law with carpooling, and also the way that the bus goes around the loop. To add on to that is we have no problem driving around the bus. We actually do that every single day. Where it pulls out, there's a lot of room on the road, and we've never had any kind of issue. I think it's really just the quantity of buses, but even if you increase the bus quantity, Hyundais that slide out will block the bus lane. They will create accidents, and people love their autonomy. So you really have to think about psychology and the root of what will actually cause people to create change, and force might be the only way with carpooling. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brooke. We really appreciate your comments and for taking time to join us tonight. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next commenter. Roger, you're up. You'll be followed by Chad. So if we can promote Roger to be able to unmute his audio and share his camera. Are you there, Roger?
I am.
All right, wonderful. Go ahead, Roger.
Okay. There's no question that visitation of the Cottonwood Canyons is increasingly driven by both population growth and changing climate. However, the two canyons themselves are not getting any bigger. In fact, if anything, the available space is decreasing due to more infrastructure. So available space for recreation per capita is going down because the space is decreasing and the people are increasing. It's not UDOT's responsibility to manage visitation. I fully recognize that. But at the same time, UDOT should be cognizant of these regional trends and not take steps that will worsen them. Delivering more people faster to the canyons will worsen them. That's the thrust of the action plan. It solves the speed of the travel problem while making the overuse problem even more acute. At the detailed level, I would characterize this as the gravel pit congestion creation plan, because concentrating all the canyon users or travelers to one hub, the gravel pit mobility center, is an invitation for gridlock. The idea that all the bus riders for both destinations, little and big, are arriving at roughly the same time through a single entry, as I read it here, and then transferring from cars to buses. Afternoon traffic, of course, is reversed. Think about leaving a sports stadium after a game. The single hub idea is a shortcoming. Increasing bus service is a very worthy goal, but concentrating all the modal transfers is not. Those transfers need to be dispersed throughout the region and with multiple mobility hubs and synchronized bus schedules to avoid more congestion. And I might just respond to Bob Paxton's statement about taxation. As I understand it, the taxation for these, both little and big and little Cottonwood Canyons, will be levied through income tax on all taxpayers in the state. To work out how much that is, it's in excess of $1,000 per average household. That's a lot, since 90% of those people will never make any use of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. We really appreciate your comments and appreciate you taking the time to join the meeting tonight. Thank you again. Chad is up next. So Chad, will get you promoted to unmute your audio and share your camera. And tell us when you're ready. Chad, I think you have the ability now to unmute.
All right. How about now?
There we are. There we are. We can hear you now. All right, Chad, go ahead. Time is yours.
Thank you. I don't want to take too much time because I've already I showed up at the open house last night and have had multiple opportunities. So I wanted to first and foremost say thank you for the accessibility that UDOT has offered on this project. I ran into Devin about a year ago, and so great at just being accessible and saying, here's my contact information. I heard him saying that to multiple people last night as well. Really appreciate the transparency and the way that you're soliciting input. I don't take that for granted, and this is an important project, and you're definitely taking it seriously. So thank you. And other than that, I won't get into too many specifics because I have mentioned them to you individually, but just wanted to generally say that as someone who has used the canyon my entire life as a valley dweller, and then in the last 20 years, I've been an employee in the canyon, and I'm aspiring to being someone who lives full time in the canyon. I feel like I cover a lot of constituencies here, and this, as you know, the situation is untenable currently and it needs to be fixed, and you're doing big things that are good, and it's not going to make everyone happy, clearly, but I appreciate you trying to thread the needle and worry about all your different constituencies, and just wanted to give a extra shout out to people that are trying to make it livable to work and live in the canyon, and who aren't independently wealthy, and to make it so that no one knows better than the people in the canyon that there are certain hours you just don't travel. You hunker down and you try to wait for the red snake to die down. But anything we can do to allow emergency vehicles and residents and employees to not be stuck, especially in these areas where we might be waiting for an hour to go just a few hundred feet. Really appreciate your extra concern to creative solutions in those areas. And that's about it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chad. We appreciate your comments and appreciate your attendance tonight. It sounds like many of you attended last night, the in-person public hearing as well. So thank you for attending last night and tonight as well. Before we move to Andrew, just a reminder for any of those who may be on tonight and haven't had a chance to speak or share their comments, if we could put the link again into the chat, I'll just mention that to my team. If we could drop that link in again. Those of you who haven't signed up, and if you'd like to still speak tonight, we have some more time for you to be able to speak. Please click on that link and just sign into the form, and we'll go to you. Andrew, if you're still here, raise your hand and we'll get you set up to open up your audio and turn on your camera. Let us know when you're ready.
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you, Andrew. Go right ahead.
Question: do I need a camera for this? Because I'm running Windows 10, and they've
No. Just you can just talk. Yeah, go right ahead.
Perfect. Cool. Well, I guess unless someone else signs up, I'm currently the last one to speak, so that's kind of fun. A little bit of pressure there. But I just wanted to say, first and foremost, I am so excited and proud of what you guys have accomplished here. You know, everyone who's been speaking so far comes from a different background of constituencies, canyon residents, people who recreate in the canyons, people who live outside the canyons. You know, everyone has a say in the matter for sure. I will say, as a lifelong local who grew up in Cottonwood Heights between the two canyons, who has been skiing my entire life, taking private vehicles, taking carpools, taking buses. The situation, as everyone knows, is completely untenable. I've seen it go from, you know, when there was no one driving these places, you know, you could go up to Alta on a Saturday morning after 9 and there'd be half the parking lot full, to if you're not in the canyon by 6 a.m., you're not going to get there on time. You know, I've seen that transformation happen, and this is the only fix to getting this done. You know, having more transit, more buses, getting more people efficiently moving. I will say I am somewhat disappointed with, I guess, the comments and opinions of some of my fellow constituents that have come tonight. You know, the saying is that when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Everything seems to be centering around how can we make this easier for cars. The problem is that there's too many single cars. We have to carpool more. oh, like, what are we going to do if the cars aren't flowing? The answer simply is that we don't focus on making the experience easier for cars. It's that you make the experience easier for buses. Even if every single canyon recreationist got out of like their single cars and got into carpools, that's still so many cars. That is an unfathomable number of cars that are still trying to go up and down every day. So I guess essentially, I'm just trying to say I'm very excited that you guys have realized that the solution to the problem is to get more people out of cars and into transit by making transit as seamless and efficient and comfortable as possible. The previous commenter, Brooke, was talking about psychology. One psychological element that has been proven with transit time and time again is that if you make it efficient and pleasant, people will use it. I've been on the bus so many times over the last, 15 years of my life, and I've spoken, it's not just, like dirtbag college students and people who can't afford a limo that take the bus. I've talked to international tourists, people who have more money than you would think are taking the bus. People want to take the bus. They don't always want to drive. Sometimes driving for people who aren't used to those canyon roads is scary. And having better buses and a more pleasant transit experience will be better for all of us and get all of us moving. As for the tax burden complaint, how much money do people think that the resorts produce for the entire state? The fees of people who go up there and pay for day passes, resort fees for food, people buying skis and ski items at stores all across the country, that all goes back to our economy and pays for the rest of the state. So essentially, I'm very excited for this project. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate your comments and again, appreciate your attendance tonight. We haven't had anyone else sign up yet from our links. I'm going to call for our original three speakers, our first three, just to see if by chance they've rejoined us. Isabel, Andy, or Chris. If you're on, please raise your hand. If we missed you when we started the hearing component of this meeting. We'll give you just a minute to raise your hand if you're still on the meeting. Okay, I don't see any hands raising at this point. So what we'll do is we'll open it up for just a minute for those who haven't had a chance to comment. If you want to raise your hand, we'll give you 3 minutes. And we just ask that you state your name so that we can recognize who you are and have it in our public record. Looks like we've got a Wendy who's raised their hand. Can we allow Wendy to turn on her audio? Wendy, you should be able to at this point in time. If you'd like to take your 3 minutes.
Let's see, did that work?
Yes, we can hear you, Wendy. Go ahead. You've got 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you again for holding this public comment opportunity. Really appreciate the focus on education and the openness and transparency with which you've conducted everything. We are currently in the process of early stages of construction, not far off of the loop. And so we are some of the locals who would be trying to enter the Brighton Loop to access our home. And so we definitely have concerns, and we know our neighbors share a lot of concerns of just trying to get.
Sorry, Ms. Smith. Sorry, Ms. Smith. I think we lost you for a second.
To getting with Amy about this last night. I'm
Ms.
hoping
Smith?
there's some.
Sorry, Ms. Smith, can you hear
Wendy,
me?
can you repeat?
Yes.
We lost you for just a minute.
Sorry about
you
that.
cut out
Yes,
for a minute.
okay.
So can you
I was
back up about 30 seconds?
Yeah, I'll try to. Maybe my connection's not that great. So we're building not far off of Brighton Loop. So we would be some of the locals that are trying to access our home and work around the congestion at times just because we live close to the ski resort. And we know our neighbors, a lot of our neighbors share that concern too, trying to get to their homes. So what we're hoping is that we might be able to come up with some mechanism at some point in this plan to allow locals perhaps to share the bus lane to just get into the neighborhood or things like that, where they might be able to bypass some of the longer lines, or just we're hoping that there'll be a mechanism to be able to access local homes that are not far off Brighton Loop. I don't know how we would do that, but that's something that's like super important to us, having lots of neighbors who have waited for hours in congestion, just trying to go home, not even trying to ski, if that makes sense. They have a parking spot right at their house, but they're just trying to get into their neighborhood. So we're hoping that as part of this plan, at some point, we can find some mechanism to make that happen. It seems like the easiest thing would be sharing the bus lane. I know Amy and I talked about this a little bit last night, and the question was, what would that mechanism be?
Great. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time and for joining the meeting tonight and providing us with your comments.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Is there anybody else who did not register but would like to make a comment? If you click the raise hand icon on your screen, we'll give you the floor to take a few minutes and make a comment. We'll pause for just a minute to see if anyone else would like to comment. In addition, if anyone's just on the phone, and they can do *9 to comment as well. Okay, it looks as if all those who have wanted to comment tonight have commented and have shared their thoughts in the public hearing, which we have recorded those comments as part of the official record for this study. Devin, would you like to go over a little more information with the time we have left?
Yeah, I think let's do that. And then if we get more people raising their hands, we can hop back to the hearing portion. But yeah, we'll switch over. And since we still have time and we have to be here until right around 8, we're going to walk through more of the design concepts from Appendix 2B, which is the proposed action figure series. So I'll take a few of these and then I'm going to pass it off to another member of the team and they can talk through some of them. So starting out, this is where we are looking at the intersection of Old Wasatch, Mill Rock, right as you're coming on 190 up to the gravel pit. This is a zoom in on the start of the Wasatch interchange. So although all of this is shown as new, it's actually very minimal changes through this section. The major changes here are that more delineated bike lane. If you scroll down to the next page, you can see now we're coming up to that interchange, which is the grade separated interchange. You can see the ramps coming down on either side of the road. That lighter gray is a new bridge that would be constructed where the intersection would actually pass underneath Wasatch, so that you could then go and access the what is possibly a future development, as well as our proposed parking structure. These roads in darker gray are what was at once part of the proposed development, but that has not been reviewed or approved by the city. So it's more of just saying there will be roads that will access this parking structure. We don't know the exact design yet. We're working with the city and the developer to try to figure out, the shared use roads in that development. If you go down to the next page, we can see more of the access roads that'll come out of the parking structure leading towards the canyon, and the ramps both into and out of the gravel pit that leads you down towards the canyon. You can scroll down some more and you can see that access road leading to the bus only transit way, which would then go parallel to Wasatch and get you through the Fort Union intersection without going into the Fort Union intersection. This would lead into if you keep scrolling, this would lead you into the current Big Cottonwood Park and Ride. This transit way would bisect most of the current park and ride. So we will have to work with our partners that, a lot of us co-manage this park and ride, and we're going to be working in the future to figure out what this park and ride should become as a lot of this becomes this bus access way. There's this signal that's pointed out right here, which would be a bus only signal. So when a bus pulls up, it would stop traffic, allow the bus to turn out, and then go back to green, and it wouldn't change unless a bus was present. If you keep scrolling down, these are the Mid-Canyon bus stops. I don't know, Adam, if you had anything else you wanted to add on the Mid-Canyon bus stops.
One other thing that this Mid-Canyon bus stop at Cardiff proposes that we didn't mention the first time around is that there's a gate that goes down into Cardiff Fork. We understand that gate is it's kind of awkward placement, and there is a proposal to move that gate a little further uphill so that it's not as likely that people would slide into it, residents going into that development out there in Mildy South or Cardiff Fork.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's something that UDOT maintenance has also requested that I think would be a benefit to a lot of people. I know Adam mentioned this. So currently, it's hard to see it, but the current crosswalk actually extends across the entire, both the parking area as well as basically the entire paved area at Cardiff. And so this would cut the crosswalk distance in half. And based on regulation, that means that we get to cut the red time in half. So we hear a lot of people say that this hawk has, caused traffic problems. And we want to maintain crosswalk safety, right? We want to maintain pedestrian safety, but we also want to be able to limit that impact to traffic. And so by shortening that crosswalk and providing safer places for people to wait for that to change, we actually are able to both make it safer as well as reduce the impact to traffic. And I think that's one of the key features of the Cardiff Fork improvements.
Devin, before you go on, I would also point out that the parking arrangement on both sides of the road, in front of and behind the bus, or I should say in front of the bus on the uphill side, behind the bus stop on the downhill side, those are proposed to be revamped slightly so that people aren't, so there's a more formalized entrance and exit into each parking area, so people aren't just pulling out into traffic from various places in the parking arrangement there.
Yeah, that's right. Anything else on this one? I think we can probably scroll down to the next one. This is the Spruces Campground bus stop, which is, quite a hub for backcountry access. Quite a bit less improvement here, but, we're aiming just to make sure that the bus can, bus drivers can feel safe pulling off and stopping in these locations. That's something we hear from the current service, which is why it's hard to serve these locations right now, is the bus drivers don't feel safe a lot of the time pulling over, and riders don't feel safe waiting. And a lot of the times the snow is right up to the shoulder. So if you were to stand there and wait, you're basically standing in the roadway. And so a lot of these improvements are targeted at making it safer, both for the motorist. If you're just a normal person driving, you're not going to encounter a bus that's waiting in the travel lane. If you're a bus driver, you're gonna be able to pull out of the travel lane. And if you're a bus rider, you'll be able to have a nice place to, it might still be cold because there's not a covered shelter here. But at least you're out of traffic, you're not in the roadway, and you'll be able to wait for the bus somewhere that's safe.
Hey, Devin, before you go beyond this one, I have heard from some people who are concerned that people could ride the bus drive to one of these locations and then get out of their car, park their car, get out of their car and catch a bus to avoid the toll, and also occupy a parking space in one of these Mid-Canyon stops. And it's a concern that we are familiar with, and there are operational ways to address that concern. It's not something that we have specified how it would be addressed in the EA. It is one of those operational scheduling or delineation of which stops buses may stop at on the way uphill to pick up riders. that can be addressed through a more operational planning.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, we're very cognizant that these spots are very limited, right? When you're talking at Cardiff and Spruces, there's some of the few locations you can actually park in the canyon to use these backcountry accesses, right? These forest land accesses. And so very cognizant that we don't want to encourage people to drive up here and try to get on the bus. And we'll make sure that through the operation, we make sure that's either not possible or very, very hard to do. And we don't detail the exact operation of the bus in this study, but it is something we plan to do. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Adam.
You bet.
If you want to go to the next page, this is the Silver Fork bus stop. Very similar. Once again, we don't want to have people parking in the private parking for Silver Fork restaurant. We don't want people to encourage people to go and park any of the neighborhoods that are accessible from here. And so, we have to work out a system where we're not encouraging that. And yeah, I think if we go to the next one.
Devin, one of the things that we may not have highlighted as much as we should have is the intent of constructing this particular location at Solitude is to make it so buses don't have to go into the ski area parking lot. Every time currently, whenever a bus goes into Solitude or even Brighton for that matter, parking lot, especially here at Solitude, they get stuck in the same ski area parking lot congestion that private vehicles do. So the intent of this particular stop is that that buses wouldn't have to pull into the ski area parking lot itself.
Yeah, that's right. And it's, when you think about it from like the Department of Transportation, from UTA, we're trying to save taxpayers money. It's an upfront investment, both in, and we recognize the impact, but we see that by providing this specific bus only access, right? Bus only pull out. We keep the buses on the roadway. They don't get stuck in traffic. And so if we're trying to make sure we're hitting these frequencies, right? These 10-minute frequencies that we aim for now and, 5 to 6 minute frequencies in the future. That means we don't need to spend as much money on buses. We don't need to hire as many drivers, and that saves taxpayer money if we're able to keep them out of the traffic, right? Because every time they go in, they're losing minutes. And if they're losing minutes, that means we need to spend more money to hit those frequencies. That's a very good point. And this is a better detail showing where that vehicle storage building is currently proposed. That vehicle storage building may be moved. We've had some comments pointing out that there is a drainage nearby. And so we may be moving that. We'll have to consider that as we go forward. And it better shows the pedestrian bridge where you can see there's that landing zone in the corner of Solitude's parking lot, which would impact a few of their spots, but I think it's less than 10. And you can better see the little turnaround for the buses that has to be built. Once again, this is a bus activated traffic signal, so it will only turn when a bus pulls up. It's not going to change. We're going to have to make sure that the system does not incentivize someone to try to pull in and then pull back out, right? That if you pull into this bus only area and try to get it to, turn so that you can make a left-hand turn and cut the queue or something, it's not going to change for you. You'll be forced to just make a right-hand turn and go out and go back up the canyon. If we can go to the next one, I believe this is the start of the bus priority lane. I don't know if Terry has anything to say about this one, maybe.
No, do we want to stop right here? There was a raised hand. Andrew,
sorry.
Jump in.
Yeah, Devin, we had a couple of raised hands. If there's a couple of people who want to make a public comment.
Sure. Yeah, we can hop back to public comments and we'll come back to this when we are.
Yeah, we could shift back to that. And just a reminder that this isn't a Q&A period. So if in your comments, if you have questions, you can state your question in your comment, and then that'll be addressed in the final report. So we'll go ahead to those of you who've raised your hand. I think we have Andrew and Tom who have raised their hand. So if we could allow Andrew to unmute himself and make a comment. You'll have 3 minutes to make a comment, Andrew, and then we'll move to Tom.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Andrew.
And if you
Right
could
off the
state
bat,
your last name, sorry, Andrew, for the record.
Yep. My last name is Katsoharakis. Do you want me to spell it?
Yes, please.
Yep, it is spelled K-A-T as in Tango, S-O-H-I-R-A-K-I-S.
Thank you.
Right off the bat, I just want to apologize for, I guess I didn't realize how much this would derail the presentation. All I was curious about was that in the original hearing report, you guys were talking about how there were at least 3 different other concepts for the Solitude bus station. I was curious if at this time you'd be able to show what some of those looked like, just because I am really ecstatic about the Brighton station. I think it's really well placed. We're using the existing UDOT asset, minimizes disruption environmentally and from a transit standpoint. I think the Solitude station is, I understand the placement from a transit standpoint, how it's on the roadway, but I think the separation from the resort and the, how it's parked right up against the riparian corridor, at least invites some questions. So I still think it's a net good to have it, and it's a good, idea, but I am just curious if you guys could showcase some of the other concepts for the Solitude station during this hearing. And that was all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate your comment. We'll move to Tom, who's raised his hand, and if we can, Tom, you should be able to unmute your audio now, and you have 3 minutes to share what comments you'd like to on this project with the project team. Tom, can you hear me?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Great.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Tom.
So Tom Ward, we have a cabin up at the Brighton Loop area. I'm a civil engineer by practice and trade, and worked for both Salt Lake City, and I work for Sandy. Just a quick comment. Looking at how the approach there is to Solitude, you have, it looks to me like the buses will be in the same queue that backs up as they're trying to park, get cars into the parking lot. And the bus would be, it seems like if there were 2 lanes with a divider or something, just to make sure that the bus gets straight over, passes that mess there. On the downhill, you've got 2 lanes to kind of help on the exit that, has some capacity. Anyway, that's my comment. If you could take a close look at that, it seems to me that you're gonna jam your buses up behind those trying to park in the Solitude parking lot.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you jumping on and sharing your comment with us. Is there anybody else who's joined us or would like to comment before we go back to some of the action figures that Devin was walking through with the team?
Yeah, and don't feel bad for interrupting. Like, the whole point of this is the public hearing. We have to be here till 8, so we're going to walk you through some of the fun stuff on the study if no one has questions. So don't feel bad to interrupt.
Okay, it looks like, Devin, that no one else has raised their hand at this point in time. So why don't you continue on, and then if we have a few more hands raised, we'll interrupt again.
Sure. Get that exciting Appendix 2B pulled back up. We're just walking you through the last 2 years of some of our lives. So,
Carrie, you want me to take this one, Devin?
Yeah, sure, Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, this exhibit shows the start of the bus-only lane. You can see the fire station there on the bottom of the screen, and that's where the lane starts. You start transitioning to a bus-only lane, but also cars destined for long day. Guardsman's Pass Road, and recreators up there could use that lane to take a left onto Guardsman's Pass Road. And at that point, after that point, it's bus only. So if you want to jump to the next lane. And again, this is really where, the majority of the traffic backs up on those busy days. And so you really get the kind of the biggest bang for the buck weighing, environmental impacts and costs versus, the benefit of this bus lane. again, atypical to kind of be on the inside of the lane, but further up canyon, there become a little more conflicts for people trying, if they were to try to get from the outside lane to take a left into their property, have a few more conflicts. But yeah, buses on the inside lane through here until you get to the roundabout. Let's see if it shows up better on the next slide. A little gap in the bus only lane to allow motorists to utilize that roundabout. There's an existing access into the Brighton store that's right at the roundabout, and that would be moved further up canyon and just past that Nordic Center bus stop is where people would access the Brighton store and continue on up the canyon. I might add that we've talked about in this section of the bus only lane to sign it like no resort access for private vehicles, so that those that live on the inside of the loop could also use that bus lane so they could get into their properties on the inside of the loop. And then, like Devin mentioned earlier, a bus signal that would be triggered by a bus to stop traffic and allow those buses to kind of veer right into the Brighton bus stop. Devin mentioned the close work we had with Brighton to try to optimize this. Parking in the canyons is a premium. So for Brighton to give up a portion of their parking is a pretty big deal. They did want to maintain an access on the east side of the Brighton bus stop. Can you see where that call out on near the top of the page is? That would allow cars to exit the Brighton parking lot around the backside of the bus stop. And we also reduced the bus bays for this bus stop. Ideally, we'd have 4 just to help facilitate loading and unloading, but we shrunk that down in this location just, again, to minimize parking and environmental impacts through this area. Whereas the Solitude, it's important to have 4 bus bays at Solitude, because initially we'd kind of talked about having a point-to-point service, ultimately going from the mobility hub, running buses directly to each of these resorts. But initially that might not be necessary. So buses could, conceivably stop at Solitude and then continue on up to Brighton. And then, on the return trip, if they pick up passengers here, they could also kind of stop at Solitude before heading back down canyon. So 4 at Solitude is pretty important. And, we could maybe get away with 3 bus bays here at Brighton. So that's the main feature of this bus lane, and a little more color on the Brighton stop.
I believe that's the end of it. Is that the last page?
It
So I think we can move on to the architectural report, unless anyone.
Devin, should we take the time and kind of go over those alternative Brighton and Solitude stops that is in appendix?
Sure.
Whichever we want to go. I can.
2A.
Yeah, I believe it's in
Appendix
2A.
2A. Sure.
Yeah, we want to take over the sharing.
I think Erica has it queued up.
Okay, looks like that's coming through. Do I have control? There's that you, Erica.
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So here you can see some of the other concepts that were considered. This is they're not lettered, so that's concept A, concept B, concept C. You can see we looked at with concept B having to be across the road. One of the major considerations with having to be across the road is you'd have to then get people across the road. And that's very challenging up here. You'd either end up with a pedestrian bridge, another hawk, or a tunnel of some sort. The tunnel is very difficult because of utilities. There's the sewer, the power, fiber, everything runs underneath the road in these areas. So it's very challenging to get, and water, challenging to get a tunnel. A pedestrian bridge would be very large, which would increase the walk distance considerably, right? You'd have to walk up 20 feet, which would have ramps that are several hundred feet long over, and then back down, several hundred feet of ramps, which would then be icy. They would be, snowy, very challenging. And if you had a hawk, I just think a hawk would probably not be feasible, just with the number of people that would be crossing the road. And it also places it further away from the resort. Solitude Concept C would put it closer to the Eagle Lift. There are multiple challenges with this. The access roadway would be very long through forested area, currently undeveloped forested area. The bus stop would also be in an undeveloped forested area. So just, that one also has quite a few impacts, as well as Solitude B is also in a undeveloped area. So having it be close to the resort, having it be, something where you're not crossing the roadway, there's just not a lot of great developed locations that you can impact in the canyon because those places are already developed and it's hard to replace those. On Concept D would put it closer to Entry 2, but then you would be once again trying to figure out how to get people back to the lifts, and impacting either creating a pedestrian path or creating some other impact in an undeveloped area. If you want to scroll down to the next page, we have the two concepts for Brighton. The Concept A, which is the proposed action, and Concept B. So you can see Concept B was more in their northwestern parking lot rather than in the southern parking lot. And there are quite a few issues with this one. There's wetlands that are to the west. It impacts quite a bit more of their parking. And it's just not a great location for the buses as it places you by Millie, which is, one of their, not the main base, rather than placing you right by Brighton Center, which is more of where most of the lifts are. So yeah, just overall not the preferred location, and as it has more impact and was less preferable from a comfort and accessibility perspective. Now that we walked through those and we still have no questions, I guess I vote we go to the architecture report and take a look at some of the concepts.
Neat stuff. Do you want to invite any other comments, Dave, real quick before we do this?
No other comments so far.
Okay.
Don't see any raised hands, so let's move on to the next set of drawings.
Yeah. So I'm not going to read every single page on this one. It's in-depth and lengthy, and our architect put a lot of work into it. Just, want to mostly highlight a lot of these really great renderings showing just what these may look like, right? And that's a lot of what we are inviting comment on when it comes to the architecture of this. As I've stated, and as Adam has talked about, we're going to have to meet a lot of requirements when it comes to fitting these into the built environment of these resorts, right? So Brighton has its own aesthetic, Solitude has its own aesthetic, and these are going to be placed in one of Utah's best recreation areas, and in a very beautiful environment. And we want these to look like they fit in a mountainous area, right? These shouldn't be something that doesn't look like it goes both at the resort and in the mountains of Utah. So if you have comments related to that, that's something I'm not sure I've seen a lot of. And if you have comments, I think I've heard some such as, hey, Brighton has a ordinance related to reducing light pollution, right? That's a great comment. We will definitely take that into account, and we don't want to be a light polluter, right? These are mostly daytime operations outside of a Brighton where there is a nighttime operation. And even when we do have a nighttime operation, those lights should not be distracting. They shouldn't be taking away from the beauty of where you are. And we don't want to add light pollution. So as you can see here, this is kind of the general layout of Solitude, right? You've got the vehicle storage, then you have the bus driver area, which is some bathrooms. You've got a little break area, and then you've got the public restrooms and the public waiting area. This is just a concept layout, not indicative of what we will have exactly, but Number one, that's pointing to the waiting area and the locker areas. I guess, so, and then, that could be seating, that could be tables, lockers, just standing area. And yeah, just comment on what you might want to see in there. Is there a feature that we're missing that just is easy, right? Like something we just haven't thought of. Is there a possibility to work with like the town on a local art exhibit that could go through there? I don't know. Something like that. That's something we just haven't thought of. So if you want to keep going to the next page, here's Brighton. As you can see, it's mostly the same, just without the vehicle bay. And then on the bottom, you'll see this avalanche crew lodging, which it provides, basically 2 rooms and a restroom, where we can then house our avalanche crew, who is up there making sure that the roadway stays safe. And I think that's one thing maybe people don't pick up on is the avalanche crew is keeping the road safe for you to drive on, right? So when we're shooting for avalanches, that's not for the ski resort. That is for the motorists in the canyon and the buses and the riders to make sure that those avalanches aren't coming down onto the road and, injuring motorists. Because that is something that would be terrible if it happened, and is something that UDOT is really proud of, that we don't have, in general, we don't have avalanches that hurt people. There's avalanches that come down onto the road, but the vast majority of avalanches that come onto the road are triggered by us when the road is closed. And so providing this benefit to the avalanche crew to keep them in the place where they work, I think is a big benefit of this plan. If you want to go to the next page, this is what's called massing, which is just really talking about like what the structure could look like from the outside. You see there's a couple concepts. Do we have peaked roofs? Do we have sloped roofs? It's basically just saying, like what fits into the environment when you're looking at it from different angles. If you want to go to the next slide. This is more of the architectural toolkit. Just talking about, like there's different ways you can put this building together. There's individual bays, you can snap them together, you can mix them, you can match them. And it's more of the way that this was designed architecturally.
Devin, there's a raised hand that may want to comment.
Yes, please. Stop me from talking. Thank you.
No problem. Katie, you've got your hand up. We'll give you the ability to unmute yourself and make a public comment. You'll have 3 minutes. Let us know when you can hear us.
Hi, sorry. So I jumped in a little bit late and you may have already covered this. And if you have, I apologize. But just with the whole tolling thing, have you guys, because like if you had a booth like in Mill Creek, it would just make traffic horrendous. So is the idea kind of like how they have like the HOV line and you can lane and you can have like pay for like a toll thing and it just charges you. And so it's like, my idea is like you can buy a Cottonwoods pass. If you did this for Big and Little Cottonwoods, it's like $100 a year and it's hooked to your license plate. And so when you go up and down, you're not going to get tolled because you've got a pass. But then if you do go up and down and you don't have a pass, it's like it's hooked to your license plate. And so then the county just sends you a $5 charge or something like that, like how they do toll roads in other states. Like I've been on a toll road and then 2 weeks later gotten like a $5 bill that I had to pay because I was on XYZ toll road. And like maybe out of state license plates are tolled at a higher rate than Utah license plates. I just don't feel like it's fair to tax the entire state of Utah for something a very small percentage of the people in Utah will be using.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate your comments and for jumping on. We're grateful that you jumped on when you could. We did walk through a presentation at the beginning of this public hearing that did cover the tolling component of this environmental assessment. So if you would go to the website, all of the information that we presented tonight is on the website, and you can see the information that we have there on tolling. as well. We have another hand raised. Chad, I think you're back. If you'd like to make another comment, we'll go ahead and give you the ability to unmute your speaker and go ahead and share a comment.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me speak again. I just wanted to add an additional question. As you're talking about these transit hubs, which are nice big buildings that'll obviously have their use during the busing day. I know that the town of Brighton has been very interested in finding public gathering spaces, and there's limited land and it's very expensive. And maybe these are two uses that are just not compatible, but has there been any discussion about trying to make one of the transit hubs, either a Solitude or a Brighton, dual purpose so that it could also facilitate community gatherings of some sort when not needed to be used as a bus kind of facility? Thanks.
Thank you for your comment, Chad. Appreciate that. We'll make sure that that's recorded and addressed. Any other comments? Just a reminder, as we're nearing the end of this public hearing, that you can still submit comments through the project website and through email and through phone, and all the ways are listed on the project website, and we encourage you to do so. It looks like we have another person who's raised a hand. Philip, we'll allow you the ability to unmute your audio, and you'll have 3 minutes to share your comments on this project with the project team. Go ahead, Philip.
It's my position that tolling at the Solitude Gate does not serve the full purpose of getting people of reducing the ski traffic. That the easiest way is just to put the toll on the parking, and therefore not inconvenience all the residents, which is about half of Brighton, that live above there. Therefore, you're only collecting from 3 entities, which is a hell of a lot cheaper, and you still get all the revenue. That is a much more efficient and lower cost way of getting this done. And it doesn't impact half of the residents of Brighton, or their guests, or their providers, or FedEx, or anybody else. And my second point would be that we've got to get Brighton to require reservations at all times, so people don't come up the canyon with nowhere to park and then block all access into the Brighton Loop. There's no amount of double tracking that's going to stop very, very poor planning by a private entity, which is basically taking a public right of way. We've got to get them to actually be respectful of the rest of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. We appreciate your comments and for jumping on and sharing those with us, and those will be recorded as well. Any other comments before we wrap up tonight? If there's anyone else on who would like to click on the raise your hand icon, we have just a couple of minutes left. All right, I don't see anybody raising their hand. So before I give just a few minutes to Devin to wrap up, I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to join us this evening and to tune into this virtual broadcast and official virtual public hearing for the Big Cottonwood Canyon. We appreciate community involvement in this process, and we hope it will continue throughout the rest of the study period. Again, a reminder, if you didn't comment tonight, feel free to comment through all the different channels that are listed on the website. And submit us your comments up through the end of the comment period. This recording of this hearing tonight will be available on the website starting tomorrow. So if you came on late and you didn't get a chance to see our presentation, please feel free to log on to the website tomorrow and watch the presentation. It's about a 30-minute long presentation where the project team walked through all the various aspects of what we've looked at. So with that, I'll turn the time back over to you, Devin, in the last couple of minutes we have just to wrap up, and we'll say goodnight when you're done.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks both to Dave, to the study team, and to everyone who's able to attend online and was able to make a comment. These comments are really important to us, both now and also previously in our last public comment period. They really do help to shape the study. They help to make sure that we're informed of all the different viewpoints for everyone who uses these, whether you're residents, tourists, recreationalists, day users, all the different user groups. We want to see comments both that are substantive, that are fact-based, and sometimes emotion-based if it is something that you're emotional about, right? That if it's something that you care about. So thank you for all your comments. I really appreciate it. And thanks for spending a little bit of time letting us talk about something that we've spent a lot of time thinking about and talking about. So yeah, thanks. Have a happy holiday and have a great night.
Great. Thank you, Devin. And we encourage you all to drive safe if you're out tonight, and appreciate you joining us. And good night.